Let's go through this scenario. An auditor sits down, opens their laptop, and asks you one question. Who could deploy to production last quarter? Not who did, but who could, right? Everyone who had the keys, whether they used them or not. And for most teams, right, that creates an instant like confusion. Someone in the team exports an edit log, right? Someone else tries to recreate a spreadsheet from memory to remember who was given these keys and who wasn't, and who used them and who wasn't, right? And then the third person pings that one engineer that understands the organization permission model. The answer is this somewhere right now. It's just that, like in most cases, in most organizations, it's buried in data that was never built, right, or designed to have a human sit and read it from start to finish. In this video, I'm going to show you how Octopus Deploy answers this with its platform hub, and it does this with an exciting feature called compliance reports. So by the end of this video, you will know how to run reports, right, how to export evidence and send it straight to an auditor. And if you're on a governance, risk, or compliance team, this is something that you always have to think about, especially in the AI world now, right? So stay right with me and let's get into it. Let's talk about why this is worth a feature. First of all, audit evidence usually lives in raw logs, right? And logs are great at telling you what happened, a deployment ran at this time by this account. What they're bad at telling you is what's allowed, right? So what action that didn't really take place. So who is authorized to deploy to which environment right now? And that's a different question, and it's one that auditors usually ask, right? There's a framing what holding on to here. We've talked about enforcing governance, setting the policies that decide who can do what. We've also written an article about it, right? You can see the link in the video description, right? This is the other half of the story, right? Enforcement decides the rules, evidence proves you followed them. And in a regulated world, the second one is the one that fails audit. If you're in financial services, healthcare, any regulated environment, or you're living within frameworks like DORA, SOC 2, S2R 11-7. So what's the actual problem? You should remember that audit logs are granular and they are hard to report on. So let's say you want to wire up a security and events management platform, right? Pipeline to know what happened, right? In most cases, that's an overkill for point-in-time questions. And what governance and compliance teams, right? Governance, regulation, and compliance team actually need is something to self-serve, right? Something to self-serve is readable and is exportable, right? And something they can run by themselves without having to book an entire engineer's time, right, from a governance team or a regulation team, or getting an external auditor or an external security expert to come and report. And that's the gap like that Octopus compliance reports fill. They turn raw audit data into answers that governance and compliance team can actually read. Let's look at what they actually are. Compliance reports are a new area in Platform Hub, right, that turns audit data into reports. There are two of them as of today. So deployment permissions and deployment history. So one thing to be clear about, right, up front, this doesn't replace audit logs, right, or the audit stream you might already use, right? They sit alongside them, right? And the audit logs is very, very important because in most cases, right, you need that granular event level detail, right? And audit stream is still valuable and also doesn't replace like your SEIM management platform because it feeds it, right? And compliance reports are just a readable layer on top that built for teams that needs to move fast, right? Not necessarily for engineers, not necessarily for having to go and find that one engineer in a platform team that designed the entire platform, right? And I'll keep flagging this because it's accurate. This feature is currently in alpha, right? And you can see that label on screen. It means it's real, usable, but it expects to keep changing, right? And whenever you're watching this video, right, your feedback will be genuinely valuable to shape how we move on forward with our Octopus Deploy compliance reports. The whole thing comes down to two questions, right? Who can deploy and who did, whenever across the entire life cycle of your application. Deployment permissions answered the first question. Deployment history answers the second. So let's run through them now and see a demo, as we all engineers love. So let's get right into the demo. Right, as you can see, I've logged onto our Octopus deploy dashboard, and there's one prerequisite I need to note. Right, in order to use the compliance report feature, you need to have Octopus Enterprise. Right, so Octopus Enterprise gives you access to Platform Hub, which Platform Hub is Octopus platform engineering platform, right, that allows organizations to design their platform. So it's not platform out of the box, right, and it's not platform from scratch, so you can move faster. Also, while having like the limitless customizability, right? And if you didn't know, Octopus is one of the backers, right, of Argo CD, and some of the top maintainers of Argo CD work on the Octopus team. So it's premier open source, right, and delivered to you in such a way that you get the best possible features, enterprise features, while having the flexibility of using premier or vanilla open source technologies. So now the prerequisite is out of the way. Let's get right into it. So I'm on the Octopus deploy dashboard, right? As you can see, these are past projects I've used in previous demos if you've watched some of my Octopus deploy videos. So I'll go to Platform Hub, right, at the bottom left, and I click on Platform Hub, and you can see Octopus for process template, and then you see what we really want, right? Compliance reports. So compliance reports, and then I click on it, and you see the two core types of compliance reports that I talked about, right? So one, deployment permissions, right, that shows which users have permission to deploy. And you remember, right, at the beginning of this video, there was a question I asked, right, which auditors asked who could deploy, not who deployed, but who could deploy. And then going to who deployed, then you have the deployment history that shows you who deployed, right, and when they deployed, and the time, and which application and which environment. So first of all, let's look at deployment permission. So I click on it, and then you see like you have several options, right, of environments, depending on the environment you have in your in Platform Hub, right, and your Octopus deploy platform, right. So you have deployment environment, staging environment, production environment, test environment. So let's say you want to see who has access to deploy on test environment, and then I click on test environment, then click create report. So now it creates like deployment permission report of test environment, and I can see the projects that have been deployed in test environment, and then I can see who can deploy, right? And at the moment there are 4 users that can deploy to this test environment, and then I see Octopus admin, Octo admin, right, which is an administrative service account for this Octopus environment. Then I see Jibril's email, and then I see my email, right? Then I see a service, right, that deploys on another service, right? Like an API key could deploy to this environment. So dependency checker service that we used in an application in our previous demo on process templates, where we needed to verify dependencies are ready for our application, then deploy those applications, right? And you can see that these 4 users have permissions to all the projects, right, in this test environment, and you can see all the projects in this test environment. And we can also go to another environment, right? Let's check out staging and create a report for staging, and you can see the applications that made it to staging, that use staging as like the environment lifecycle. And you see it's not all the applications that are the test environment or in staging environment, and still these 4 users can deploy. This is a demo environment, right? In your own Octopus deployment environment, right, you have several different users, and not all users should have the same level of permissions, right, that could deploy to a production, right? For example, let's check who can deploy to production while seeing it. So let me take out this staging and create a report for production, and you can see the same 4 users. So now we don't want an application to be able to deploy everywhere, right? This deployment services application was designed just for this service API, right? API key user service account rather. This deployment checker service account was created just to deploy this dependency checker application. So why is it that it can deploy Invoicer, right? We can go into the Invoicer application. Just go back. So why is it that it can deploy into Pet Clinic? Why is it that it can deploy into Argo Web Promotion, right? Well, but this service account is just for deployment, the dependency checker, and that's the key information, right? That I didn't know before opening this, right? I didn't know that I didn't set the API keys right, and these are mistakes that this is human error that no matter the experience, maybe 100 years, because obviously not 100 years experience, maybe 10 years experience, 20 years experience deploying applications, right, and being a cloud native engineer or a security engineer. These mistakes do happen. Hence the need for observability. Hence the need to create reports like this that are visual and easy to read. So in other cases, right, it may be that, someone can notice this while reading an audit log and all, but from this simple user interface, I can just see that, this is not what's meant to happen. Dependency checker service account shouldn't be able to deploy to Argo Web Promotion, right? Or shouldn't be able to deploy to Invoicer. And then I can go and check settings and then look at API keys, right? And I see the API key has full access. So this is where the issue came about, right? This API key has full access and is for a demo project. So why is the demo project API key having full access to the entire application? So then I can just look at it, right, and view the permission of that API key, and then see that and see the permissions, right, and you see that it belongs to everyone team. It also belongs to the environment manager team, right? So it has access, full access, and then you can also edit these permissions. So for this demo, we are not going to edit it. We are just going to revoke the API key. And we'll see that it changes, right, in the Octopus, in the deploy permission compliance report. So we can revoke this API key now. Sorry, API key, you're gone. Then go back to Platform Hub and then check the deployment permissions report and check production and then create a report. You see that after revoking the API key, the next one now we need to, that can no longer deploy, right? You see that it still shows 4 users, and that's weird. It still shows 4 users. So the deploy checker service account is still shown, right? And it can deploy to Invoicer in production. But there's one thing that to note, right? We've deleted the API, so this would actually not work because the API key was used to create the user, right? The user service account, right? And so we can go ahead here and then delete this user. And then when we go back to Octopus Platform Hub and then deployment service, we'll see, and then production, and then create a report, we'll see now 3 users, right? So yes, we deleted the service account API key, right? It was still showing number of users because the user was created, but in real world, right, when like deploying an application with that service account, it wouldn't have access because the API key is just already is deleted already. So it's important to know that when using API keys, right? For example, when setting you create a user for like a service account, right, on Octopus, it's important to delete both the users, right? So you have the right data on the compliance report. And now we can also go into, like you saw, we can go into the user, we can also go into the project directly from here and all. Then we can also download CSV of these reports, right? CSV file that we can send to every other thing that may not have access to view this dashboard, or you can send to like that you can send to like an auditor, and I can just pull up this report for you to see. So I could open up the report that I downloaded here, and you can see the reports, right? And you can see who has access to deploy what, right? and when they had access, and the particular project user ID at this particular time. So now I've seen like deployment permissions, right? And you can see how it gives you overview on like who has access, who shouldn't have access, right? On a particular project to a particular environment, right? And then you can go back and look at deployment history. So deployment history is who deployed to where and when those deployments occurred. So you can see deployment history for today. Today, according to this video, 25th July 2026. There is no deployment, right? There have not been any deployment. But I can search in the past 30 days, and as you can see several deployments, right, to production. And you see who the deployer and who deployed at the particular time he deployed. And also the status of the deployment. Did the deployment fail or did it go through? And I can go into that particular deployment and see more details, right? And obviously I can not show you a release, right? And not show you the recovery agent feature by Octopus, which helps you step-by-step instruction of how to solve like a deployment failure across your environment. They analyze all the task log, fetch the deployment steps, and give you step-by-step on how to resolve the bug, right? Or what stopped the deployment. And then you can see like the deployment history for the last 30 days, and also the advanced features for you to advanced filters, right? For you to filter on space, also filter on environments, right? Only deployments, filter on a particular project, right? And all. So, and also tenants, if you have like multiple tenants in your application, in your environment, right? And then you can see for all the versions, right, that were deployed, which API deployed what, which deployed and when, right? And then the most interesting thing, you can also download this report as a CSV file and look at it just like I showed you for the deployment permissions, right? And you can look at for the past 365 days, right? You can look at the past 90 days, and you can take the filter like as much as you want, right? To have that that log, right, of who did what, on what, when, and what was done. Right, and this helps you to stay compliant and also know vulnerabilities, right, that might happen in the future. So that's about like deployment permissions and deployment history in Octopus Deploy, right, which is compliance reports feature. And there's one thing to see, right, which is a third card, request a report. So as mentioned earlier, this is currently an alpha feature, and the Octopus team is open to your feedback on what type of report you want to be able to create, right? And you can always reach out to the Octopus team to give them your thoughts, your feedback, and build like with your feedback, which helps you have a more robust platform and deliver on your customer needs, right? So I can submit this feedback and close, and all that is that. And Platform Hub helps you to design your application. Like you can see, it's not rigid. There's no standard. You create your own standard, right, for your platform based on Octopus foundation, right? And Octopus also gives you access to process templates and all these interesting features. Like you can see this deployment dependency process template was created by an external engineer, and it's public, and you can import it if it fits your need. You can customize it, add more steps, configure features, and all, right? So thank you very much for taking your time to watch through this video. Right now, you can answer an auditor's question, and if you have any question, right, you can always put a comment in the YouTube video, right, when it's uploaded. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can also ask a comment. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Divine Odazie for any questions, and also check out the links in the description to learn more about the Octopus Deploy Compliance Reports feature, to learn more about Platform Hub, learn more about the recovery agent, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.